We are talking about buying houses now. Rent in some areas may be a bit cheaper than monthly mortgage payments. Does that mean it's a good time to hold off on buying a new home?
It depends on a few factors, and I asked that question to Clifford Freeman, the CEO of the Cliff Freeman Group, and here's the answer he gave me.
Kevin, that's a great question. You know, at this very moment, rents are slightly cheaper than owning a home, but if you're going to be in a domicile for any period of time, history tells us that it's much better to own than to rent over the longer term.
Right, and what do you say to the people who want to be financially flexible with their home, but they don't want to waste any money on renting?
You know, that's a great question. The challenge with renting is rents go up consistently with inflation, just like home prices do. Sometimes we see a lag with rent increases, but you know, overall, the flexibility that I think people are looking for would be, you know, better served if they looked at it from an investment standpoint. And if you look at net worth for renters versus homeowners, the NAR does a study every year, and that number is something like $400,000 more for homeowners than for renters. So again, depending on what the needs are, if you're going to be moving every year, then there's no doubt that the transaction costs with owning a home are going to reduce your return significantly. And typically it takes about 4 to 5 years to recover your investment of purchasing a home, the closing costs and so forth, before it becomes a positive cash flow with appreciation and equity buildup.
I see what you mean. You got to think long term there and have maybe some relief later on down the road in life. According to Realtor.com, renting can be about $1,200 cheaper right now if you're renting a 2-bedroom apartment than, say, getting a home, because these mortgage rates are pretty high right now. Do you think that this is a good idea to go with renting, given that?
I think that article really, if you sort of do a little deeper dive into it, the rental rates and the delta between the rental rates and home appreciation are like the weather. They're different all over the country. So it really depends on where you live. For example, if we just picked Austin, Texas right now, there was a huge run up in the last few years in home prices there, and rental rates did not keep up. Part of the reason why is there's about, I would say, almost 100,000 students who live there that keep that rental rate really depressed if you just look at averages. And so if you compare living in a dorm with living in, you know, someplace in the hills in Austin with a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, beautiful home overlooking the lake, you know, there is a substantial difference. But I think that it really gets down to quality of life issues. And the question is, would you really, you know, be able to be comfortable living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Austin versus a single-family home? And I think that question's pretty easy to answer.
Well, thanks for helping us navigate the housing market. Clifford Freeman, CEO of the Cliff Freeman Group.
Thank you, Kevin.